All right, everybody's curious, so let me tell you what happened. So the reason I'm suing him is we were on a month-to-month lease. He moved in at a later point. We didn't move in together. Like somebody moved out and he moved in and took their place. So there was a $4,500 deposit sitting on the apartment. He contributed $935 when he moved in, and that was because the person who had his room was moving out, and that's what they contributed to the deposit. So he just bought the deposit out from them, because the deposit, obviously we were staying, so the deposit would then be inherited by the three people who were signing the new lease versus the person who was moving out. And I say new lease, but I mean like amended, like they took one person off and put the other person on. Anyway, then he went fucking crazy talking about how this nation needs to be cleansed of basically anyone who's not like heterosexual and white. So fuck that. So me and the other roommate decided to move out. And like I said, traditionally in these situations, for people who aren't like terrible people, the people moving in would buy out the people moving out. So he's the only one staying. So he's the one dealing with like finding people to take the rooms. Also, we're not on speaking terms because he's fucking crazy. And again, me and the other roommate moved out at the same time, like not in with each other, and we weren't even friends. And like, but he was so fucking crazy that he was like, I'm leaving. And I was like, I'm not going to fucking like, I can't bring another person into this and like pretend everything's okay because it's not. So you'll remember he paid $935, so he's inheriting $4,500. And I told him whenever we were talking about moving out, I said, if we're gonna leave, then you need to pay me my deposit and you need to pay Blake, the other roommate, his deposit. And this took place in a conversation that we were already having about like the fridge was mine, the washer and dryer was mine, and so we were trying, like he wanted to buy those things off me so he didn't have to buy new appliances. So instead of saying like, yes, I will buy you out of that deposit, he just started talking about the fridge. However, when he moved in, when we were texting, I told him when he paid his deposit that it would, you know, I told him how the process worked. Like the deposit would go to the person moving out. And then, you know, if he decided to move out, again, like the person moving in would pay him out of his deposit. So deposit's refundable, but the office doesn't deal with it. Anyway, so we move out and we put in our notice like mid-month because it was just like we couldn't stay. It was just too much. And so I paid like a portion of February because my reasoning was like, you decided to stay. Like if it wasn't for you, then the lease would just be ending. Because in California, you can end a lease. Like when you put in your 30 days notice, at the expiration of the 30 days, your obligation is done. Like you don't have to wait till the 1st. So I paid like 19 days worth of February and he was like, no, that's not how that works. And I was like, let me just talk to the landlord and see. So I emailed her and at first she was like, yeah, you only are responsible for the 19 days. And then she emailed back the next day and was like, no, actually, like you're responsible for the lease until it's amended. So technically you have to pay for the full month. And then if someone moves in, then you guys can work that out. And in the meantime, he had already paid the rent online, like the $300 or something that I owed, had already paid it with a credit card. So there was a fucking credit card fee, but it wasn't even late. It wasn't even the 3rd. So I still could have paid it, but whatever. So I reimbursed him for I texted him and I was like, either, because he had told me, if you don't pay the remainder of the rent, then I'm going to take it out of your deposit. The $1,600 that he owed me that we talked about, which if he never intended to pay it to me, then he was just lying to get that $300. Anyway, so I paid it to him in good faith. I Venmo'd him the whatever he paid plus the credit card fee. And then like we got taken off the lease and then a month went by and I texted him and I was like, hey, like what's up with or not even a month, once we got taken off the lease, because I was messaging with the property manager because we weren't talking, messaging with the property manager, and she let me know whenever we were removed, like our obligation was removed from the lease. And so I texted him and I'm like, hey, what's up with the deposit? And he just replied pending. And I was like, okay. But I didn't want to get into it. And so I was just like, whatever, like I'll just wait for him to send it. Because my thinking is he's probably like gonna like wait 30 days, even though it's not necessary. Anyway, so 30 days go by, don't get anything. I text him. I'm like, hey, like what does fucking pending mean? Like what's going on? Doesn't respond. And then I follow up once a week for another month and never hear anything from him. And so then I file my small claims lawsuit. So his position is I never explicitly said I would pay him the money, so I don't have to. But what he fails to understand is that He contributed $935, and now he has inherited a deposit worth $4,500. Not only that, but he collected $1,000 from each new roommate who moved in. So he's paid $935, but he got $6,500. And if he moves out, then who's to say, what kind of wear and tear there would be, like what the apartment would keep. But that was kind of already built into the deposit because I was only asking for $1,600, the other roommate was only asking for $1,000, and his contribution was $935. And so even if we all took back exactly what we paid, there still would have been almost $1,000 in, reserves to pay for any damages or whatever they were going to keep for like cleaning fees or whatever. And my stance was that since I told him when he moved in how the deposits work, he was put on notice of it before he signed the lease. And then when we discussed the deposit by me saying, like, you have to pay me $1,600 if we're going to move out. And the act of staying created the contract because obviously it was in a conversation we were already having. And so by just ignoring it and not explicitly saying, like, yes, I will pay you, like, that's false enrichment. Like, you're obviously like trying to get a loophole so that you can keep money that's not yours. So that's the backstory on why I sued him. I'll do as part 2 of what happened in the trial.